Welcome to the Prime, everybody. This is Israel Rivera with another installment of PSW The Prime Special Edition NFC East Division Preview. And I'm going to go through same thing pretty much what I went through in the NFC West yesterday. Rookies that are going to have the most impact on their respective teams in the NFC East. I'm going to go through what I expect and what pretty much everybody else expects of all the teams in the NFC East. It was a down year last year for the NFC East. They had god-awful defense last season. But hopefully they can get back to their old ways where the NFC East was great again. And football was still in a better place. But all week I am going to have this NFL film theme music. Football is right around the corner, baby. Woo! I'm stoked. And I'm pretty much, along with every American and people that follow professional football around the world, we cannot wait till the pigskin starts flying through the air again. Woo! Very exciting time for me and a lot of Americans. Welcome everybody to the Prime. This is Israel Rivera with another installment of the NFC Division Previews. Today I'm going to go over the NFC East. And pretty much everybody knows that last year was a down year for the NFC East. Everybody is pretty much accustomed to that division being fairly competitive. But like in the NFC West, last year the NFC East was pretty much every team had their nicks in terms of their players being injured, in terms of personnel not working out correctly. But there were some, major injuries to, some top hitters, especially the Cowboys coming off of the year they had previously, losing Des Bryant early in the year, losing a couple of key defensive players. So the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, are one of the teams in the NFC East that are going to, come back from a bad year last season. And, I figure to see, the pretty much the same thing going, the same trend going for the Giants and the Eagles, because both of those teams were just god-awful. They were just terrible last season. So, starting with the Cowboys, and like I said, I think the Cowboys are going to come back into fruition. They're going to come back into form like they were back in 2014. And so we're going to see if, the Cowboys can stay healthy this year, especially with Tony Romo and Des Bryant going out last year. The Cowboys were pretty much dismantled in certain ways. Those are the heart and soul of the team, and when they go down so easily like that early on in the year, it kind of affects the team chemistry, and everything you want to build around in terms of team momentum at the beginning of the season. And when you lose those two key guys that are pretty much your whole offense, who are the heart and soul of your offense, it pretty much hurts. It pretty much hurts your offense. It hurts your defense. It hurts the whole team. It hurts the whole team when Tony Romo and Des Bryant go down like that. But it's a new season. It's a new day, and the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, in terms of they're starting off this season on the right foot. Okay, they drafted Ezekiel Elliott, who some are comparing to Emmitt Smith, or a better version. Some saying he could be better than Emmitt Smith. That's the hype around Ezekiel Elliott. Some say he's gonna be the leading rusher this season. I had David Huffman, who is the host on The Triangle that I do another podcast series of. He was on our show. He was saying that Ezekiel Elliott's gonna break the rushing title this year. He's gonna have the rushing title this year. Those are high expectations that people are actually putting on this guy. And especially with the Cowboys, they have a decent offensive line. And Ezekiel Elliott is a pretty darn good running back. He showed us that he can play on this level when he, torched Alabama, when he torched Oregon last year, when he just had that amazing 3-4 game stretch to basically carry the Buckeyes to a national championship, and he was only like a sophomore at that time. Ezekiel Elliott was off the charts, and I still think he's off the charts, and it replaces something that they avoid that the Dallas Cowboys didn't have. They didn't have a running game last year. Okay? DeMarco Murray, that's very hard to replace, DeMarco Murray. And now you got Ezekiel Elliott with Tony Romo, Jason Witten, Dez Bryant, and that really good offensive line. And if they stay healthy, this Dallas Cowboys team could compete for a championship. They could compete for a Super Bowl. Ezekiel Elliott is the X factor. It depends on their health, though. This year, the Dallas Cowboys, if they can stay healthy and they put all the pieces together, they're going to be a very good ball club this year. They're going to be a very good ball club this year. So, going back on the Dallas Cowboys as a whole, they weren't so bad in terms of, even with all the injuries and the personnel issues that Jason Garrett had to run into, because there were a lot of them with this Dallas Cowboys team. They were last place in the division. They were 4-12, 1-7 at home. They played better on the road. They were 1-7 at home. That's $1 billion stadium, and they were 1-7. I know Jerry Jones was furious. You don't put a winning product on that field, your fans start to doubt you. And Jerry Jones, pretty much this year, I think Jason Garrett's on the hot seat. If he doesn't put it all together this year, he will be having to find. I think he will have to find another job. I don't care about all the loyalty that Jerry Jones. This is a business, and if he can't get this team to at least be in contention for the Super Bowl, put them in position to win the Super Bowl, he's done after this year. Especially if these guys stay healthy, they have a good regular season, they go to the playoffs, they can't lose in the second round. They have to go to the NFC Championship. They have to go to the Super Bowl, because that's the type of expectations that Jerry Jones is going to put on this team and on Jason Garrett. That Dallas Cowboys offense is stellar when they're healthy. That is one of the best offenses, most explosive offenses in football when they're healthy. And with Ezekiel Elliott, they're even more explosive. They're younger at running back. They're more elusive at running back. He can run between the tackles, or he can run around. So, the Dallas Cowboys, to me, are the team that I think is they're gonna take their reign as the NFC East champ this season. Last year, offensively, they were ranked 22nd overall in total yards, 27th in passing total yards, and that's because Tony Romo was injured. He was out the whole year. And then rushing, they were 9th. They were ranked 9th in rushing with Darren McFadden and company. Imagine that offensive line with Ezekiel Elliott. They're going to be one of the best running teams in football. The Dallas Cowboys are. They're going to be one of the best offensive teams in football again, if they stay healthy. And if they can regain the form that they had the previous season. Not last season, but the year before that. Defensively, the Dallas Cowboys were ranked 17th. This is a 17th ranked in total yards defense as a unit. They showed me something defensively. The Dallas Cowboys showed me something the year before. Everybody thought that they were going to be very bad. the year before in terms of defensively. Everybody knew that the offense was good, but it's all about the defense. And defensively, they were, in terms of yards thrown in the pass, total yards in the passing game, they were ranked 5th in the NFL. That is pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. And, this year they figured to bring back on that defensive line. You got Crawford. You got a bevy of defensive linemen for the Dallas Cowboys. Randy Gregory, he's going to miss 4 games to start the year. But once they get him back and what they project him to be, he's projected to be one of their, top pass rushers, on this defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence as well could face penalty, but the NFL hasn't ruled on his appeal yet, I believe. So the defensive lineman group is kind of thin because you got a bunch of guys they brought in that they don't know how they're going. They don't know the expectations of these guys. They're still trying to gauge them, as training camp comes along. So the Cowboys, up front, it's a mystery on the defensive line. But, that played in a part to, they were, the 5th best, team in terms of passing. So, in running, they were the 22nd in terms of giving up total yards to teams out of the NFL. What can I say about Rolando McClain? The guy just can't seem to get it right. And his future is in question with the Dallas Cowboys. He was suspended last season for the first 4 games for failing a drug test. He's suspended this season for the first 10 games for failing his second drug test. And now people are calling out like, get rid of this guy. Why are you keeping this guy around? What's so important about Rolando McClain, Jerry Jones? But Jerry has a soft heart for Rolando McClain. He just recently comparing to Charles Haley. I mean, Jerry Jones has a big heart, but it's business. It's a business, and you can't have guys that are going to be failing drug tests left and right, especially your key defensive players. It's unacceptable. And so, now that Dallas linebacker group is short a linebacker for the first 10 games of the season if they decide to keep on Rolando McClain. If they do, which I think would be, because he could be a surprise cut coming up this season. Rolando McClain, if he's healthy by the end of the year, he could help that football team out a lot. Last 6 games of the year going into the playoffs, if they are a playoff team indeed. Although Rolando McClain, when he's at the top of his game, and he's got his head on straight and he's out there playing, actually, he's a good player. They have a good player there. You got Sean Lee, Rolando McClain. You're looking for, probably Mark. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's in Zielcha. He missed his rookie season with a knee injury, but he could be, a big special teamer for them on, punt returns, and he could fill in for Rolando McClain from time to time. Who knows? But this linebacker group is thin as well as at the defensive line. And then we go to the cornerbacks, the defensive backs. Yeah, Orlando Scandrick still, Brandon Carr, Morris Claiborne. That's a stellar group right there to start with. No wonder they were ranked number 5 in terms of giving up, total yards in the passing game. Those 3 guys right there, those are Pro Bowlers right there. Morris Claiborne is a young budding star in this league. So my expectations for the Dallas Cowboys, if they stay healthy and they put it all together, defensively, they're not going to be good. They're going to win. They're going to win most of their games in shootouts until they can get a grasp on what they want to do defensively, because they got obviously some guys that have some off the field issues. Randy Gregory, Rolando McClain. Two guys that are supposed to be key contributors to your defense coming up this season, and they're suspended. So, guys are going to have to step up for the Dallas Cowboys defensively. Offensively, guys are going to have to stay healthy. That offensive line is stellar. You have a young rookie stud running back from the Ohio State University in Ezekiel Elliott, who can possibly, and I agree with some of the critics. This kid behind that offensive line can sure as heck get the rushing title and become Rookie of the Year and possibly NFC Offensive Player of the Year. Maybe that's a stretch. Tony Romo needs to stay healthy. Des Bryant needs to stay healthy. Ezekiel Elliott, sure as heck, needs to stay healthy. Jason Witten, you already know he's reliable. The offensive line is reliable. Hey, this season, I think Jason Garrett, he's on the hot seat. I think he's on the hot seat this year. And he was on the hot seat, I believe, last year as well. I mean, he took that team, they lost to Green Bay. Albeit it was, you could say that it was a bad call. But they still lost to Green Bay. And so I think Jerry Jones evaluated it like, hey, we just lost a lot of key guys that contributed the year before. So if Jason Garrett can put it all together, and hopefully, if Jerry Jones doesn't, put those Super Bowl expectations on his own team, then, I believe that the Dallas Cowboys will be the NFC East champion. They will be first place in the NFC East next year. Moving on to the Washington Redskins, who were actually NFC East champions last year. And then the Washington Redskins are hearing about, the Cowboys have these expectations this year, but hold on. We won the division last year. Okay? We won the division last year. So, you guys need to calm it down, media. Not really. I think the Washington Redskins, it was basically, they were a pretty good team last year. They were okay, but they were a product of the division being down. I mean, that's the reason. Let's face it. If you're gonna stay average 8-8, 9-7, 10-6, you're gonna win this division, because it was a down year. Philadelphia. I mean, Washington won this division. Winning 9 games. Philadelphia Eagles were 7-9. The New York Giants were 6-10. God awful. Dallas Cowboys, like I said, were 4-12. So I mean, all you had to do was pretty much stay average, stay 500, and you'd pretty much win the division, because it was just a down year. It was a down year for the NFC East, and the Washington Redskins, I believe they'll get better. I think and I think they did get better. I mean, they got Josh Norman now. I don't know about their draft picks. I don't really have a list of who they drafted. I know that they drafted the one kid in the second round, Cravens, who's gonna be a pretty good a hybrid linebacker / safety. Could be like a strong safety role. Josh Doxson, their first round pick, he's gonna figure to be a pretty decent wide receiver. Hopefully, I mean, a lot of these guys in the first round don't pan out. And then you get guys from the third or fourth round panning out. So you won't see until training camp and preseason who's going to be key contributors to this team, or on any team for that matter. So there's still some time to to see what the rookie's place is on this team. But in terms of the Washington Redskins, they have Kirk Cousins. Their running game is just very pedestrian. I mean, they're gonna have Matt Jones and Chris Thompson, at the top, as a top backup to Matt Jones, and the running game is just not that solid to me. Offensively, the Redskins, they ranked in total yards, 17th overall, offensively, and 11th in the passing game. They had, Kirk Cousins had some ridiculous stat where he threw for like 300 yards or 200 yards in some consecutive game streak or whatever the case was. So in the passing game they were pretty solid in that regard. And then like I said, their weakness in the offense is their running game, and it's going to be their weakness this season. They don't have anybody pretty much at that running back position. Their wide receivers consist of, Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, Jamison Crowder. They just added Josh Doctson. So, you got a pretty talented wide receiver core for Kirk Cousins. You got some weapons there that he can throw to, along with Jordan Reed, who is your stud tight end, who just, broke out last season. Last year was his breakout year. I know that for a fact because I had him on my fantasy team. So, the Washington Redskins had a pretty good year last year offensively. Defensively, they were flat out terrible. No excuse for that. For a playoff team, you have to be good on all sides of the ball, on both sides of the ball. And last year, in total yards, they were 28th ranked team in total yards. Passing, they were 25th. Rushing, they were 26th. They didn't have a good year. They didn't have a good year at all. And this year it seems to be, let's see if they can rev it up, step it up a little bit defensively. They got some pretty good, players on the defensive line. Stephen P., Ricky G. Francois, in that regard. Their linebackers are still Junior Gillette, Ryan Kerrigan. So they still got guys who are, out there that are still running in the defensive backfield. Big upgrade, in terms of your shutdown number one corner in terms of Josh Norman, pulling him away from the Carolina Panthers. You make that team weaker, and on the plus side, you make your team a lot better in the defensive backfield by investing in Josh Norman, because he has proven that he can shut down some of the best wide receivers out there. Okay, and then you got Kendall Fuller. You still got D'Angelo Hall. So I think Quentin Dunbar. You still got some good defensive backs. Around Josh Norman, and as a unit, I think they'll improve this season as a whole defensively. Excuse me. So my expectations for the Washington Redskins that they're gonna still stay average. I think they're 9-7 is a pretty good starting point of where I would want to predict them, in the win-loss column. I don't think they got significantly better in terms of getting a shutdown corner, but in terms of getting overall defensively better, I don't think, they added some young pieces, but I don't think they're going to make that leap again. I still think they're still making strides on that side of the football. Offensively, they're not going to be good in the running game, which the running game pretty much sets up their passing game. But they have a lot of guys that are fast, that can run in the seams, and Kirk Cousins could give them the ball. He's an accurate quarterback, Kirk Cousins is. So I think their second place team, possibly a third place team, if the Philadelphia Eagles can possibly make a jump over them. And with the new coach, Doug Peterson, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be a lot better. They needed somebody fresh. They needed to get rid of Chip Kelly. They needed to get rid of Chip Kelly. It was best for both parties. I think both teams needed to start off fresh, basically. And I think it was, a win-win situation. Chip Kelly ends up going to, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Philadelphia Eagles, get their head coach who they wanted. and who they coveted, for quite some time. Doug Peterson, is a long time backup in this league, and I believe he used to be a Philadelphia Eagle himself. So, I think Doug Peterson's going to bring some stability into that locker room, some more leadership into that locker room. And like I said, they needed a fresh start. Chip Kelly needed a fresh start, and I think it works well for both parties. The Philadelphia Eagles had the number 2 overall pick. They picked Carson Wentz, and who I believe is going to be a good quarterback in this league. But, is he going to, the story going into, the season is Carson Wentz going to, dethrone Sam Bradford from the top, seat of the quarterbacks, or, Chase Daniels? What's going to be that pecking order? And so, I believe that, if you go get your number 2 overall pick, and then you went and got Sam Bradford last season, and, now you got Carson Wentz this season. You want to drive competition, but you're also looking to the future. You're also looking at Carson Wentz upside. And, he has a lot of upside. He's a big guy. He's got a strong arm. He's athletic. He can get outside the pocket. And so, I think Carson Wentz, if he puts it all together in the NFL, and he's in the right system, I think Carson Wentz can be a very good and productive NFL quarterback. For the running backs, you got Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, and a bunch of other young guys that are figured to be in the mix in terms of fighting, because they don't have DeMarco Murray anymore. They traded DeMarco Murray to the Tennessee Titans. So they project Byron Marshall as to be like a younger version of Kenyon Barner, who could be another change of pace back with Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles is more involved in the passing game. Ryan Matthews had a very productive season last year, and when healthy, Ryan Matthews can produce. And they have, Jordan Matthews, Nelson Aguilar, Ruben Randall. They have a decent, set of wide receivers, along with Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck, at the tight end positions. And this is a team last year that offensively they were okay. They were, 12th overall. They were one of the best teams, I would say, a more complete team offensively than the New York Giants, who were basically just a offensive team, and they were, just flat out terrible. Defensively, the Philadelphia Eagles were, 12th overall in total yards in offense, 12th in passing, and 14th in rushing. And so, the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, were okay offensively, and I think they're going to be, okay this year offensively. They pretty much are bringing back the same group of guys last year minus DeMarco Murray, so I don't know how much that makes him any better, but he had a down year last year anyways. He didn't fit well in that system. So the Philadelphia Eagles seem to be, in the same trend as what they were going last year offensively, except you got a new offensive system that Doug Peterson is going to employ this coming season. Defensively, they were god awful. They can't tackle, they can't defend in the pass, they can't stop the run. They were at the bottom of the league in pretty much every defensive statistical category. They were 30th ranked in total yards defensively as a unit, 28th in the pass, 32nd, dead last in the running game. So, Fletcher Cox just got a lot of money. He just got a lot of money, but he was, pretty much the only bright spot on their defensive line, along with Connor Barwin. But all those other guys need to step up. They could not stop the run at all last year. Like I said, they were dead last in the run, and they gave Fletcher Cox a lot of money. So they're pretty much saying, hey, Fletcher, we need you in the inside, buddy. We need you in the inside. So at linebacker, Michael Kendricks, he's a good young player. A lot of, they're just very unproven, in that linebacking core. The cornerbacks, you still got Leotis McKelvin and Eric Rowe. Malcolm Jenkins at the safety. Rodney McLeod. I'm just going through the roster list, and I'm just looking. I'm just, seeing, this team is not going to be any better defensively. They're gonna have to, they're gonna have to shoot a lot of people out. They're gonna have to, be involved in a lot of shootouts this season if they're going to win football games, because I don't think they're going to get it done defensively this year, just like they did last season. They did not get it done defensively. That's why they had, that's why they were 7-9. They had some close games, and they had some really bad losses, blowouts. That were pretty embarrassing for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think they're a third place team in this division. I think this is a team that is okay, is pretty solid offensively, but they're god awful defensively. And that's the trend going to the New York Football Giants. The New York Giants are very good offensive team, but defensively they rank last in total yards. They ranked last in the pass, and they were 24th overall in the run, in stopping the run. But offensively, statistically, they were the best team total offensive yards per game last year in this division. The New York Giants were. So I expect them to be just as good offensively this year. They got Sterling Shepard from Oklahoma to bolster their wide receiver core with Odell Beckham. But Ruben Randle, like I said, he's gone. Victor Cruz is still a major question mark with all the injuries in the past. So the New York Giants are still going to be solid offensively, I believe. With Eli Manning still at the helm, he's getting up there in years. But he's still a good veteran quarterback. He's still a good quarterback in this league, despite, some of the questionable decisions he does make on the field in terms of his interception to touchdown ratio sometimes. But this is one thing about Eli Manning. He's clutch. He throws for a lot of yards. And sometimes when he's hot, he's hot. He's like the three-point shooter, the streaky three-point shooter in the NBA. When he gets it going, he's got it going. And he's got a good guy to hand the ball off. Rashad Jennings had a pretty good year last year. Andre Williams is the backup. He's a solid backup, for that team. So they have weapons, and I did go over the wide receiver core. Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, who is their second-round pick from Oklahoma, Victor Cruz. The tight end, they still have Will Tye and Larry Donald. So they still have, a pretty solid offense. I think this is going to be, if the Cowboys stay healthy and the Giants stay healthy, you're looking at 1 and 2 as, offensively, those teams. In this division, the Redskins are the worst in this division. To me, offensively, I think the Cowboys. I think this is the pecking order. You go Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Redskins in terms of your top 4 offenses going into this in the NFC East if you want to rank them. So the Giants' offensive line is solid. Defensively is where they were dead last in most statistical categories. If you thought the Eagles were bad, the Giants were worse. And so, defensively, they're going to have to pick up the pieces. They're going to have to, they have a young defensive line, with JPP, leading the way. But he's not the same player, following that firecracker accident. So, they have young guys. They have an unproven linebacking core. In their cornerbacks, they still have, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. They have Janoris Jenkins, Eli Apple, who's going to be a good player. Trevin Wade. So, the Giants, all they could do is get better. They were the worst passing team in the league defensively. And, I can't stress anymore that you can only go up from here. If you get worse, there's no getting worse from what you did last year. That defensive back core has to step it up this year if they want to, win more than 6 games. This is a team that is better than 6 wins, I believe. Offensively, I think they're going to have to be involved in a lot of shootouts, and that's the trend in the NFC East. They don't have good defensive teams. The Cowboys may be the exception, but they're pretty average defensively. Everybody else is pretty terrible defensively, and it's just like the wild west, except it's the wild east. And they're just going to be in shootouts. All these teams are just going to be in shootouts with each other, 30+ point games. 40+ point games on some weekends to win a game. Yeah, it's gonna be a shootout. Every single time you see the Cowboys play the Redskins or the Redskins play the Giants and the Eagles play the Cowboys and the Giants play the Eagles, it's going to be a shootout. No defense involved at all. So, with that being said, this is not a good division. Let's put that out there. The Cowboys, if they stay healthy, they are by far the best team in this division. There's no top heavy. There's no two top teams in this division. No, there's just one really good team, I believe, in this division. Everybody is below par or average. And that's what the NFC East is. Offensively, they have 4 teams that are from above average to pretty good offensive teams. But defensively, they are not that great. They are average to below average defensive teams in the NFC East. And the only team who I think, if they put it all together, and I've been saying this all podcast, is the Dallas Cowboys. And I think they can be Super Bowl contenders if they put it all together. If they can put it all together, the Dallas Cowboys will be playing in the NFC Championship at least. And I have really high expectations for the Cowboys coming up this year. I believe that they can win 13 games this year. By far, I think they could be one of the best teams in the NFC this year. If Tony Romo's healthy, if Des Bryant's healthy, if Ezekiel Elliott proves to be, the second coming of Emmitt Smith, or whatever the case is. That offensive line, you know what you're going to get out of Jason Witten. You know what you're going to get out of that offensive line. Jason Garrett's a proven veteran head coach in this league. He's on the hot seat. Everybody got to play. Everybody's got to step it up. Defensively, they were average. They were the best team in this conference defensively last year. And that's not saying anything good. Because, they weren't that great offensively. They could build on their, passing defense, but, they can improve their rushing defense. They can be a little bit better defensively. But offensively, they're solid. They're one of the best teams if they're healthy. Like I said, the Dallas Cowboys are healthy. One of the best offensive teams in football. And that wraps it up, everybody, for this edition of The Prime. I hope everybody had a good time listening to the NFC East preview. I know there's Cowboys fans, Redskins fans, Giants fans, Eagles fans out there that maybe listen to the podcast or like the PSW Prime Sports Facebook webpage. Right now the website's under construction right now. We're still working on some things on the website, but we're gonna get it up and running this coming fall. So watch out for the Prime Sports World website, the actual website, because this is just a podcast series. And so next time we're gonna go over the NFC South, and we're gonna preview those teams. Tell me what you think about the podcast. Click like, keep the comments PG-13, ladies and gentlemen. I don't wanna have you guys saying rated our comments or whatever the case is, but at the same time, tell me what you think. Share it, like it, tell your friends to listen to the podcast, and I'll post this on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Go add me as a friend on Facebook. Israel Rivera. Add me on Twitter as IR Shy City JOUR journalist. Like I said, go like the Prime Sports World Facebook page. I post all the podcasts on there, all the updates on that page. And until next time, everybody, it's Wednesday, it's hump day, everything's downhill from here, and I hope everybody tunes in to the next edition of the Prime NFC South Preview Edition. Thanks, and have a great day. See you later. Peace out.